I was always the dumb kid. I'd almost told myself, you're never going to amount to anything. Like the thought of having money was just foreign to me.
This is Ed. He went from being the dumb kid to growing a YouTube channel to 300,000 subscribers and making $100,000 per month. If that happened to you, what would you do next? Well, Ed decided to quit and start again. So in this video, I interviewed him to find out why he quit such a successful business, how quitting ended up making him $1.1 million in just 4 months, and all of his best advice for starting and growing online businesses. Ed, most people that make $100,000 a month, they are over the moon. Why did you decide to quit your business that was making that much money?
I was over the moon, definitely. I couldn't quite believe the position I'd ended up in. But the reason I shut it down basically to rebuild was that I just saw a problem no one was really solving, and it would have been hypocritical of me not to shut everything down, risk everything to try and solve it. So that problem came about because I was just helping people get views, and the issue I was seeing online was the more views I got didn't necessarily impact my business or help me. And I thought, aha, it's not about the views, is it? This is about speaking to the right group of people and then putting an offer in front of them that can really help them. So that's why I quit it, because I was part of the problem and I wanted to be part of the solution of helping people build businesses online, not just make internet friends.
Nice. Yeah, it's interesting how you had a problem yourself, you solved it, and then that created the new direction for you to go in. Can you walk me through that process of solving your own problems and sharing the solutions?
Yeah, so that's one of the great things about the internet is anyone can share. And when you have a problem, people often come up with their own different ways of solving it. That might be the same way as someone else, but they can also come up with a slightly different way of explaining how to solve it. So what I tend to do is find a problem and then go, how can I turn that into something other people can easily understand? How can I articulate that in a way that it doesn't take them 3 years to figure out, but it takes them 30 minutes? That's kind of what I spend my life doing.
I call it a synthesizer, this process. And it's interesting because we both know hundreds of millionaires that have become millionaires through synthesizing. There's something interesting about that process of solving problems and sharing solutions.
Yeah, I mean, it works in every niche as well. Like some of my clients are in the music niche, teaching instruments, and they're making sort of 20, 25 grand a month via this process. Of other people helping with very specific sort of self-development issues that are not mass market at all, making a killing and helping a lot of people. So I think a lot of people think that this doesn't necessarily relate to every industry. Basically, if you kind of teach anything online, you fall into this category. If you're a problem solver, if you have solved it yourself, you basically have a cheat code for growing a following and a business.
And why do you think this process lends its hand to income generation so well?
Because problems are painful. So if people have, if they're struggling to get a girlfriend or a boyfriend, right, they're waking up in the morning and that's the first thing on their mind. And when you alleviate that anxiety from someone, it's a massive relief. They feel very good. And they might spend their whole day with this thing in the back of their mind. So it's successful and it's very rewarding because you can have such a big impact on people's lives, but people also want to spend money on the thing that is bugging them the most, right? Because once it's gone, it feels amazing.
And what mistakes do you see people that are trying to build online businesses make?
There's a lot. I think a lot of it comes about because the online marketing space has been around for a while now. There's many different strategies, many different things you can try. And what that means is people try many different things rather than just trying to pick one thing to go all in on. So what they end up doing is they complicate their marketing, they complicate their offers, they build more and more and more in the hope that that will turn into more and more, turnover, where it often doesn't. Often it's the opposite. Really, they should just be focusing on one thing so that they can get good at the marketing on that one sales page. If there is any kind of funnel towards it, perfect that. And then get really good at running the product and service, because if you spend all that time on one thing, you're just going to get better results. So that's the first biggest mistake. And then I guess the next thing is probably rushing. So a lot of people are like, I want to make money online. I want to make money from YouTube. It's like, cool, well, you can do this if you've got some sort of credibility or you've solved a problem before. That's going to give you a head start. But at the same time, you need to start building a following of some sorts to build that traffic. And a lot of people I think the mistake they have there is probably thinking that bit's going to be easier, but also not giving it the time and thinking too short a time frame. Thinking, oh, I'm going to do this for 2 months and then I'm going to make money. It's like you need to be thinking in years, and this then compounds. Those guys who stick around consistently for the long term are the ones that win big.
And what about the people that have no audience? They want to go full time online doing something they're interested in. What process would you recommend them to follow to start going full time?
Okay, so I break it up into levels. This is what I have all my clients do. So the first things first, if you have no following, no audience, nothing, you are level 1. And the whole goal of level 1 is to get to about 3,000 views per video and to try and get about 1,000 people in an email list. But we forget about the email list to start. The first target is try and get 3,000 views per video, kind of like consistently. Now, the reason I give that as a mark is because once you have that, that's actually quite a lot of people, because most of the people I work with are very niche. But 3,000 people is a lot. If they keep coming back, it means they trust you and they value you. It also means you're getting better at producing content, like public speaking, understanding your audience. All of these things are going to help you grow your business. And then with regards to email, because you need to get a message out quick if you want to sell things, but also you want to keep providing value. So email for most people will become their entire business. Just leaving links below YouTube videos can work, but it's nowhere near as powerful as email is. So that's the first 2 steps. Level 1 is all about getting the basics, foundations of YouTube right. If you haven't used cameras or presented, you've got to get good at that. Then you've got to figure out your strategy and get good at thumbnails and titles and basically build systems so that you can speed up your production, you can speed up ideation, and you can level everything up and then start to build a small community. Now that's going to take different times for different people. Some people it clicks pretty fast, but once you've hit that level, you can then switch focus. So when I say switch focus, I mean you can stop posting videos. It might only be for a few weeks where you go and you work out, what can I do for my audience? What problem can I solve? And what product can I produce to solve it? And then how can I launch this thing to that small audience so I can start to make some money? Because once you have money, this then gives you another trump card in that you can outsource. Okay, I've got money, well, what do I spend it on so that I can do the thing that helps me grow in the place I need to grow the most? And this is where things can actually speed up quite a lot, because if you can find that hire and you suddenly get 10 hours back a week, 10 hours going into marketing or more videos is only going to drive more sales at your products and services. So from there, that's the kind of the name of the game. Once you've got a product, you can then switch back to content, where the idea is, hopefully, you've solved all the bottlenecks that are stopping you from getting back to content, like a thumbnail designer or an editor. And then it's like, right, I'm going to make a video a week, and I'm always going to have some sort of short call to action or a link below that video. I'm going to send an email a week, and that's always going to have a call to action. And then that alone will drive enough business to my product, my one simple product, to pay the bills, make me money, and make a living. And that's the exact strategy I use.
Wow. That's really good. I imagine when I was getting started, that sort of stuff would be really valuable. Because I remember in the beginning, one of the things that I was always struggling with was, who do I target? And throughout my whole entrepreneurial journey, the question's always been, who should I be speaking to? Who should I target? And I think that's something you're really good at. So how do you recommend people decide who to help?
Yeah, so one way you can look at this is like, what's the problem I want to solve? If we look at this idea of synthesizing, where you turn your own problems into information that other people can digest, you look at your own life, okay, what's the big problem I have solved in my own life? And what is the story there? I told my story at the beginning of this. I really struggled to grow YouTube channels. I cracked it. So I helped other people, realized I was causing a problem rather than the solution I wanted to cause. And you kind of, that your story becomes the problem that you solve. That can be a problem, because some people are like, well, I haven't solved a problem. And if that's the case, what you do is you become a reporter. So you report on other people that have solved that problem in your content until you have got to a level where your expertise have risen and maybe you've started to solve it in your own life. So yeah, that's the first thing. And then the next thing is you need to take that problem and look at research, look at YouTube and research to say, is there enough demand? Now, what a lot of people do is they go, I'm a self-help channel. And that's not a problem. There's lots of different divisions of self-help. So you need to look at your niche and kind of break down, well, what is the area that I fit into? And I think the problem is the best way of doing it. And then you start to say, okay, what does the avatar look like with this problem? Because I don't want to target 18 to 90. I might say I'm going to target women aged 40 and over. and I'm going to help them become less stressed, because that's what I did in my 40s. I reduced stress and now I'm the most chilled woman on the planet. So start with the problem, then work out the audience with that problem that you want to serve and you can serve and relate to the most. And then go on YouTube and research, is there demand for this?
Yeah. So there's so many different business models for people to do: SMMA, dropshipping, content creation, synthesizing. What do you think is best and why?
I don't know if there's an ultimate business model. It really comes down to like your own personality. So what I tend to find is the guys who make a lot of money from drop shipping, they don't tend to do it for 10, 15, 20 years. A lot of them are kind of like, I'm done with this after making money for 3, because they find it very soulless. They don't see a result. They're just pushing money around the internet, right? So I actually see a lot of them they have no passion. They have no drive. So this is why I like problem solving and helping other people, is because if you make a lot of money, you need something that's going to keep you driven, because the same thing happens to everyone when they make money online. At some point they go, this isn't that fulfilling, unless they have something that is actually fulfilling them. So when you see lives change, when I get emails from people saying, you've just saved my family from a financial crisis, I'm typing this crying, that will drive you for many, many years. That will drive you through all of the times where this is stressful and hard, because you suddenly feel like you have a duty where you cannot stop this. Because if you stop, the world is a worse place without you. So for me, that is the best business model, is coming up with a community, so a course, but with a lot of support added on. So I look at what I have more as a service with a course rather than a course with a service, because I want to provide as much one-to-one support as possible to a group of people. So to me, that's the best business model, because I feel like it's just fulfilling, really, at the end of the day. The others will all make you money, but they won't make you feel as good in the morning. That's my view on it anyway.
I fully agree. And do you know how to articulate the specific problem that you're trying to solve, the thing that drives you?
I think it was because I was written off very young by my school. I was always the dumb kid. I'd almost told myself, you're never going to amount to anything. Like the thought of having money was just foreign to me. I was just like, you're just going to work in a shop and you'll just blend in. And when I realized that was wrong, I was very driven to help other people do it. And because I was very creative at school, I did art, and I liked writing stories. I was told back then, the internet wasn't as big, so it was a skill that was going nowhere. So I think part of me is annoyed that I was told this, and it's driven me to help people make money just by being creative, to show whoever it was who told me that this is a better way. And it turned out I got lucky, because the internet appeared and meant all of these skills and things that I loved were monetizable suddenly. So that's kind of, I think, what pushes me to keep going, really.
Yeah, I've found in my own life, when you have a really painful problem and you figure out the solution, that's the thing that becomes the most motivating to help other people solve that problem, because you just know how painful it is. So you have empathy with other people that have that same problem. Yeah,
and this is why it's so good trying to share the solution, because do you know what's funny? When I was blowing up on Film Booth, which was, if you've never seen it, it was a YouTube education channel about growing YouTube channels. And I still am to this day, I think, the only ever person who said, I'm not very good at this, and I really struggle with it, and I find it hard. And I documented me struggling, but then also me solving it. And the amount of messages I got from small channels, but also massive influencers being like, man, seeing you struggle with this makes me feel so good, because that's exactly what I went through. It's just so much more relatable and vulnerable, like you said.
And do you have a specific example of someone that you've helped solve their own problems and share the solutions and made a full-time income from it?
Yeah, it's quite a lot now, because the guys are doing great. Again, it just cemented this idea of you don't need tons of views and subscribers to make good money. In terms of like an individual case study, a client of mine, 8,000 subscribers. The niche is teaching people a musical instrument, and they came into my program. They wanted to get more views. They wanted to work on their business, and things were slow to start. In fact, they had 10 weeks where they didn't make a sale, but it was amazing because they were just so driven to like keep improving. We worked out where the bottleneck was, and we just said, keep fire here, aim here, or aim your attention here. And then a few weeks later, you get an email saying, I've done $25,000 in the last 30 days. which for a channel that teaches people how to play an instrument is exceptional. And what's cool is because they've now cracked, because we look at the bottlenecks as like, what's the thing stopping this system from working? Now all they need is just more views and the system will work even better. So I call it the promised land. It's when your business is in a position where everything's flowing, then all you need to do is turn the views tap on and the money explodes. So yeah, we've been helping a lot of people, but that's one that sticks to mind quite recently.
Insane. Yeah, that's so cool. And it seems like the 3,000 view per video point is a crucial point. How do you go from I've never uploaded to 3,000 views per video?
For some, 1,000 could be enough. If you want to go from 0 to 3,000, the first thing, there's two ways to do it. There's the old approach, which is like make 100 videos, but it just is dumb. There's so much information about how to grow YouTube channels and how to make videos and how to edit and how to film on YouTube. It's ridiculous that you would think you need 100 videos now to get anywhere. You don't. So a client of mine recently went from 0 to 10,000 subscribers in just over 2.5 months. He'd never made a video before. So the process is come up with the unique problem that you can solve, start researching that niche to come up with a bunch of, to establish patterns, right? Like what words get more views, what titles seem to get more views, what thumbnails are associated with more views, what are people doing in the content that has a lot of views, and you look for patterns, you build a pattern bank, and then you just construct thumbnails and titles only using the patterns that have got lots of views, and then you start making the content. So it's really a game of taking your best shot to start based on data and patterns, and then being very prepared and accepting, I'm not very good at this yet, I'm doing my best, but every 4 videos, I'm going to make sure I am significantly better than the last 4 and I've learned something so that you keep leveling up. And the guys that do that, they might have a few tough months where it feels like nothing's working, but as long as they stick to the same plan, they'll generally do really well. And then you can get to 3,000 views pretty quick. But another key thing I need to throw in there is so long as you're not trying to take on the biggest niche. Like there's a lot of people coming into the business niche. It's like, don't try and be Alex Hormozi. Don't try and be Simon Squibb or Cody Sanchez or Noah Kagan, because these guys own that space now, right? You're competing with guys with an infinite budget, very talented, very smart, masses of credibility. You've got to find that small section. So for my own channel, I was like, I'm never going to be I'm never going to be Hormozi. Like I'm not smart enough, and I'm definitely not driven enough to be like him, right? But what I can do is just help YouTubers grow businesses. So that's the little corner of the internet I went for. So you need to understand your niche as well and make sure that you're not trying to take on the best creators in the world, because that is literally like going to the Olympics and expecting to win gold straight away. You got to put in a lot of work first before you can get there.
If you had to pick 3 niches to avoid, what would come to mind?
The general self-help niche. So what I mean by that is making big topics like why you won't be happy. There's just too much competition and the competition is really good. It just doesn't work. But a lot of people seem to just want to do that. And I'm always saying, no, we got to find like a corner of this niche. It's huge. So if you can find the corner, it's amazing. Yeah, in every niche, I guess the thing to avoid is just trying to be the biggest channel straight away rather than the most niche and most targeted channel straight away. I can tell you some niches that I would jump into now if I was an expert in them. How to build a podcast. There's not a single channel just 100% devoted to that. So talking about how to market it, not necessarily just like how the tech and how to produce it, but kind of like I do YouTube. Let's do it for podcasts. How do we blow up a podcast channel? How do we get guests on? How do we navigate sponsorships? Like that doesn't exist. How to blow up an X account, so Twitter. There's not one channel that just talks about Twitter. Like they talk about lots of other things, but no one's gone all in on that. And Hey Dom, he's an Instagram guru on YouTube. Amazing business. Only guy just talking about Instagram. It's a big clue. There's so many gaps in YouTube still, which is what makes it really exciting.
Yeah. And switching gears a little bit, you mentioned earlier that many people go through phases of a month when nothing seems to be working. I think the mindset side of online business is so important, so underrated, and what causes so many beginners to fail. So what beliefs do you think are important to have in order to grow an online business?
There's 2 that I stick to that help me. The first is this idea that you're going to spend 90% of your time in pain, maybe 95% of your time in pain. But that is where you will grow, right? It's a growing pain. And it's to realize that the 5% of joy you feel, that's not the thing that you're going to feel forever. If you're constantly like, this is amazing, everything's going really well, I love my life, well, you're stagnating. Because we can only get better by putting ourselves into some sort of discomfort to continue to improve. Because this is what it's all about. It's pushing yourself through that pain. Another way to look at it is like when you feel that pain, when you're discouraged, just understand that everyone else is going, I'm going to quit. Be the person that doesn't. And then the next thing is just to love mistakes. Like now when something goes wrong, I'm like, yes. What's the lesson? How can I turn this mistake that knocked me back 2 into something that moves me forward 10? And sometimes those mistakes are very expensive and cost you a lot of money. But if you let them beat you up and you're like, oh, it went wrong, maybe I should quit. That's not the way to think of it. Is to think, again, this is just another growing pain. As long as I get a lesson out of that big mistake, I'll win. And I've basically spent 19 years making really dumb mistakes. So I'm hoping I've got to the end of them. But I'm sure there's plenty more to come.
If you had to give one action item for everybody watching this, some practical step for them to implement, anything come to mind?
Really, just map out what your business is on a bit of paper. So I did this with someone yesterday. So let's say you've got a traffic source. So traffic source would be YouTube, Instagram, ads, could be anything. Just put those on a bit of paper, whatever it might be. Hopefully it's just one, so it's nice and simple. And then put, okay, what's the next step someone has to take to go from viewer to buying? So if that next step is right, I drive them to an email list, just put that on the bit of paper. And then if it's like, well, what happens after the email? Do I push them to an automated email sequence? Then map that out. So basically map out every step someone has to go from being a viewer or a consumer to a client. And then you just look at it and go, where's the problem? Most people assume the problem is views. It's actually not. For most people with an offer, the problem is the way that they've laid out their offer, the way they've communicated their offer, and the design of their page is all over the place, confusing. So we look there first, because if we drive loads of traffic to that, it's still not going to work. If that's good, we say, okay, how do we get more sales still? Well, let's look at the email. What's the welcome email? What's the open rate? What's the click-through rate? If those numbers are low, we go, oh, well, there's the problem. Let's change that and see what happens. And if that doesn't work, or if that is working and we're still not making money, then we look at the traffic source. And this is the best possible thing that can happen. Because if the data is good at every other area and all you need is views, getting views will be the turbocharger that just explodes your business. But for most people, it's not that. It's everything else first. So it's just map out your business. If you look at it and you're like, wow, there's like 20 different things here, that in itself is a problem. My own business is YouTube to landing page to client, basically. It doesn't need that much more. And then there's way less things and way less bottlenecks for me to work out. So that's what you should be doing, is just map it out and work out what isn't working, then focus all your energy on there, see what happens. If there's no change, next thing. And if you do that, you'll find the problem.
And that simple business model that you just outlined that you run, how much revenue does that generate?
Well, so I shut down my business on about just over 4 months ago. And I had a few weeks where I sold nothing because there was no point pushing anything. And then, in the first 4 months of launch, it did $1.1 million just doing that, which is email lists. I'm not aggressively marketing this at all. I'm not sending tons of emails. Every now and then there might be an outright promo or a case study that goes to that list, but it's usually just my Monday email, which I love writing, with a PS. I've got this thing. And then I leave links below YouTube videos. And when I post a video, people buy stuff. It's kind of as simple as that. This was weird about YouTube is you can get into a position where all you need to do is post a video a week and your business grows 1,000 times faster than when you were doing so much more marketing in other areas, because YouTube videos are the most powerful marketing tool on the planet for conversion, for building goodwill. Like nothing beats them as far as I'm concerned anyway. So if you can get to a position where you just need to make more of them and everything else works, it's amazing. I mean, my average day is I do about an hour or two in my Discord chatting with my clients. Otherwise, I have to do a call on a Tuesday evening and a call on a Wednesday, and that is my life. I can do whatever I want with the rest of my time now. So it's actually, this system works so well, you can work less and make more. I still work crazy hours because I'm very driven and I'm trying to improve the product and I'm looking at the future, and I'm probably procrastinating as well. But yeah, it's if you can get into that position, it's amazing.